I'd just like to welcome you to the session today. If you see me looking, it's because I'm looking at notes. I'm Nina, I'm a business advisor with the Community Project in Scotland. I'm moderating today, and I'll be referring to my notes because it's the first time, so please bear with me. The way it's going to work is that we're going to hear two presentations, one from Sophy Green, who is the Chief Executive at Neighbour in Aberdeen, and another from Jonny Ross. And Jonny, I'm sorry, I don't have any details on you. You're from?
That's because that was a last-minute addition. It's absolutely fine.
Right.
Kinross,
okay.
Jonny Kinross from the Grassmarket Community Project.
Okay, so John's going to come in and speak too. While they are speaking, if you would like to come in, if you want to come in with the questions or become involved in the discussion, please come on screen and just simply request to share your audio and your video, and one of the team will bring you in. Just like it's just the same as putting up your hand. It's the same kind of thing. So I'm just wondering if we're good to go. I'm just getting a message saying we might need to wait a couple of minutes to make sure everyone has arrived. I think the other one might be overrunning. Okay, so people should be heading over now, so I might have to just go over that again.
Do we know how many people are coming on?
I've got 9 so far that I can see.
Okay.
When I say that I can see, a little eye comes up with a number next to it.
Yeah, I see that. I was just wondering if...
Can you see that as well?
Yeah.
So it's saying 10 at the moment.
I'm going to drink some water, by the way.
Is there a way of seeing who those people are?
I don't think we can do that until they request to come on screen.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's just for space, really.
So one of those people could be like the Pope or someone like that.
Yeah. You know what it's like when you're doing Zoom, you're so used to seeing people. This is a different kind of platform.
Yeah. Oh, Chris is there, familiar face.
Okay, so I'm getting a note that will start in a couple of minutes. That's coming in from Alison, who's my colleague. We have somebody's, they can hear us because somebody's saying, sorry to disappoint, I'm not the Pope. Oh dear.
Well, it might not be
Chris Rafferty, I think.
Depending on who they are, it might be better.
There might be.
I'll be able to tell you some people who are coming on. Yeah, there's people coming in.
I can see that. We can see the chat down the side.
Yeah, we can see the chat. So that's great to see people coming in now. Yes, everybody do please say hello in the chat. That'd be great.
I'm sure that's not true, Chris. I'm sure you are better. In a different way, possibly.
It's really odd when you can't see people. It's such a strange sensation. No, someone else
there's an argument going on now about how Chris Rafferty is a
competition going on here.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Okay, I think we'll just maybe give it a couple of minutes, and I'll just wait for the go-ahead from Alison to start.
My challenge was trying to keep it to 5 minutes, so I'll probably rush through stuff.
Yeah, well, I have to put up a minute clock when you've got a minute to go.
Good.
I haven't shared screen yet, so what I'm going to do, just in case, is when you're getting to the 1 minute, I'm going to go.
Okay, I'll try and keep the watch on you as well. While I was looking at my notes.
Anne-Marie O'Hara has joined us. Hello, Anne-Marie. Are you speaking in our session too? Oh no, she's gone.
You terrified her.
Maybe not.
It is indeed Chris Martin a day. I'm in Braemar.
Lovely and a good day.
I'll let everybody know where I am when I start my little bit of chat.
Okay, we have got 16. Alison, I don't know if you can hear me, but are we good to go? I'll just
she says begin now so we can finish in time. Will I just go, or do you want to do your housekeeping?
I'm going to do an intro first, yeah.
Yep.
I think we're just going to go for it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome to our session. I'm Nina Graham, Business Advisor at Community Enterprise in Scotland and Glasgow. We are going to be hearing presentations today from Sophy Green, who is the Chief Exec with Instant Neighbour in Aberdeen, and Jonny Kinross is also going to be speaking today. And the way this will work is we will have the chats, and then if you would like to come on screen, please just simply request to share your video and your audio. Excuse me, I'm looking at my notes. And when you do that, one of our team will bring you in. So we're going to do that. It's just the equivalent of raising your hand. And you can choose to maximize a particular screen by double clicking on it. And when you're on screen, we ask you keep your questions brief and your comments to allow others to contribute. If you're posing a question, we'll take you back off camera to allow the next person to join. We'll try to give everyone who requests access to the opportunity to come on screen. But if we don't manage, please pop your questions in the session's chat box, and our speakers may well be able to pick these up after the session. For those who don't want to come on screen, please do still get involved by posting any questions and comments in the session chat box, and we'll do our best to answer these. Maybe some of the delegates will be able to respond to or get involved in the chat. It's all going to depend on timing. Today's session is being recorded, except the diversity and social enterprise. If you do not want to be recorded, then please don't request to share your audio and your video, but participate through the session chat box instead. And at the end, there will be a 1-minute countdown timer on the screen, or me doing this to say time up. Okay, I'm very conscious of time, so I'm going to get started. And Sophy, would you lead the way, please?
Absolutely, yes. Hello, everybody. Although I can't see you, it's a bit odd. I can see Jonny and Nina. But just to let you know that I'm actually on leave at the moment, so I'm in Breakout, and sitting outside. You'll be fascinated to hear this. The co-op, and logged on to the BT Wi-Fi through the co-op. And when we tried this as a trial test, I got thrown off at one point. So if I get thrown off, I'll come back on as quickly as I can. But just to say that's where I am. And Chris Martin, you're absolutely correct. It's not a very nice day up here. And yesterday it was blindingly sunny. So it's typical Scottish weather. Just a quick bit about Instant Neighbour. I've been there for 16 years. Instant Neighbour as an organisation is 35 years old, so it's not a new organisation. We have a number of social enterprises, which includes the acceptance of donations of electrical goods and furniture, which service, a joinery service and removal service. And all of those are based on developing skills and employing people who are furthest from the workforce. I'll get a bit of background to our situation prior to COVID. The retail world has been changing, as everybody knows, so we were changing too. We were not going to renew a lease in one of our shops. We were trying to secure a new tenant for another one of our shops. We were moving to an online presence in terms of trying to sell stuff, and we were in the process of developing a significant new project. So we had that sort of challenge. It had been a financially challenging year the previous year, in that the shops themselves hadn't done particularly well. So we faced a loss at the end of March, and we're in the process of trying to sort that out. But in terms of what happened when COVID came along, it's interesting when you think about challenges for yourself, because when you're in the position as a leader of an organisation, people look to you to have clarity of purpose and understanding of what's going to be happening. And I found that quite interesting, because one of the challenges, as we know, as leaders of organisations during the pandemic, was that we only knew as much as everybody else, because you had to follow what was happening online. And I watched the daily updates from the Scottish Government and tried to take all of my decisions based on what was being said there and then. So it was a bit of a reactive process, which I'm not particularly used to. I'm normally proactive and trying to keep things moving forward. So I had to provide sort of clarity of thought and direction to both the staff and the board, as well as to external supporters. On the 13th of March, it's quite interesting, I was in Edinburgh meeting with some friends who live in Lewis, and we were having dinner together. And at that point, they were due to travel to Madrid, and their holiday was cancelled whilst we were sitting in the restaurant meeting by the holiday company. That was the first thing that happened when we were meeting with them. They then decided they would just spend a week in Edinburgh and make up for the time there. And as we were sitting having dinner, Edinburgh University closed. So that was the first couple of things that really indicated to me that there was going to be a major change taking place in terms of what was going to happen for us. So watching and listening to what was happening round about and being in this, the other thing for me reflecting back was we were in this really busy bar for a long time with lots of other people on the 13th of March as COVID was spreading across the UK.
That might be the kind of technical difficulty she alluded to.
Possibly. If everybody could just bear with us for a moment, please, we will try and get Sophie back.
This happened yesterday in the test as well, unfortunately. The Wi-Fi connection.
We'll just try and see if we can get that sorted. If you can just bear with us a couple of moments, please. Yeah, our team have picked up that Sophie's experiencing technical difficulties, and hopefully she'll be back in a moment. For those of you who've been joining us this morning, you'll see that these things do happen sometimes. It's our first time doing this online. We're all learning, and we're all subject to these technical difficulties that are out with our control when it comes to connections. So just bear with us. I'm sure for Sophie, living from her car, I'm sure it's something she can do very, very capably. She's very versatile, so I imagine this is just completely out with her control. She did allude to using the co-op signal, so hopefully she can get back on. Okay, Jonny, team suggesting that you go ahead with yours just now, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah.
If you can go ahead with your part until we get Sophie back, just so we can get it all fitted in for the time. Would that be all right for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure a lot of
That'd be great. Thanks, Jonny.
So no, not at all. Hello everybody, I'm Jonny Kinross from the Grassmarket Community Project. Apologies if you were expecting Ingrid Webb, but some fantastic shoes to step into at the last minute. I'm delighted to be here, and I've been asked to share a bit of the challenges that we've faced at the Grassmarket Community Project since March. So for those who don't know what the Grassmarket Community Project is, we are a charity and have been supporting vulnerable adults, homeless people, people with disabilities, mental health issues for 10 years now. It's been my 5th year as CEO, coming up at the end of my 6th year actually. And so we were celebrating our 10th birthday this year, which has been a very strange thing to do in the middle of lockdown when you've achieved so much. So over those 10 years, we've established 7 social enterprises, mostly in catering, but also in woodwork and in textiles, retail. So we've got 3 canteens on sites, 2 on the construction sites, 1 in the Church of Scotland head office, and we have our own cafe and our event space. So what we do with the money generated from those social enterprises is provide a whole spectrum of services to support people, from a soup kitchen service, and providing basic food, meeting basic needs, through to benefits, advice and support, right through to training, formal training, SQA and paid apprenticeships and supported employment. The challenges that we've faced, I'm sure you can imagine, as I've already mentioned, what industries we work in have been absolutely enormous. Bit like Sophie was talking about there, as CEO, person that was trying to sort of make sense of it all back in March, like many of you, I'm sure I was a bit of a rabbit in the headlights at first, and like many people as well, I didn't really quite expect it to go on that long. Hadn't foreseen it. I remember turning on the telly and the radio at Christmas and not really paying much attention to this story on the other side of the world, and I was not little was I to know that it would have such a massive impact on my organisation, on our community, and on myself. So the 4 key challenges for us have been, first and foremost, the nature of the client group that we work with. COVID and the lockdown have really illustrated just how unequal their opportunities are, just how odds are stacked against them, particularly in the area of digital inclusion, because we adapted, like many organizations, to try and provide our services and support as much as we could do digitally. And lo and behold, our client group predominantly are not connected, or if they are, they have very, like poor digital literacy skills. So we had a massive uphill climb to physically equip people to make it affordable for them to connect with us and the services and support that we're going to offer. So that was a huge challenge immediately to us, and very much joined in the debate around the inequalities in health and how our client group, again, we're going to feel this COVID and feel the lockdown worse. The second challenge we had was around isolation and people's mental health. That's predominantly what links our whole community. Many of our volunteers, many of our staff included, is that they've all had some sort of experience of mental health issues and social isolation. And lo and behold, here is a pandemic which is throwing people into their, literally locking people into their houses and having very little social contact. And so again, we tried to move as much as we could digitally, but we knew that we were going to struggle to meet our client group. Work with about 400 people a year, and we've experienced what I thought was a very positive thing, which was we're touching the lives of about half of that, just under 200. However, that's another 200 that we weren't connecting with. So our other massive challenge has been loss of income. Like everybody else, we experienced a huge loss of income, the best part of £500,000 down on our bottom line, and it's been just a huge stress and strain on myself and the senior management team and the board to make decisions quickly. We're very fortunate as a country to have some of the Scottish Government support. As an organisation, we're very fortunate to have some of our funders bend over backwards to support us, to be as flexible. Hi, Sophie's back.
Yeah, sorry.
Hi.
Absolutely cursed about being in the pub. Sorry, you carry on, Johnny.
No, it's okay. The loss of income is to us, it's not just about the money, although that's a big one, obviously the biggest part of it, but it's also about many of the ways that we support people is through employability. So it's, we've lost Sophie again. Is through training opportunities, work experience, putting in a bit of structure for many of the volunteers in our social enterprises. In fact, some of our social enterprises rely exclusively on that way of manufacturing what they manufacture or providing whatever service they provide. So that's a huge loss for us. It's not just the closure in terms of loss of income, but in terms of our very purpose, if you like, for those individuals and for the mode of operation, that how we support people. So what was our strength, which was we had 10 very successful years, particularly in the last 4 or 5, we had a massive growth spurt and we grew new social enterprises, has made us very vulnerable, particularly because we're in that industry of catering and textiles, which is a very low profit margin. We didn't really have a huge reserve. We didn't really have a huge safety net, as it were. What was our strength, trading successfully in the commercial environment and putting out tenders, competitive tenders, was what made us more vulnerable than other third sector and public sector organizations. Because to put it in perspective, just over 70% of our income came from our social enterprises. And that switched overnight to 0% coming from our social enterprises. And whilst the furloughing scheme and other Scottish Government and some of our other funding that we got helped us very much in the short term, it's running dry now, which leads me on to my 4th challenge, which is we've just entered into in the last 2 or 3 weeks, which is we've reopened. So we've reopened quite a lot of our social enterprises. 4 of our 7 are now trading. And it's been a real challenge because we've had to adapt how we serve our customers, and that means social distancing in terms of our canteens and cafes, which means less income, which means less employment of staff. So even though we are delighted to be opening again, and most of our social enterprises, it's been a huge challenge, and they're nowhere near going to make the kind of levels of income that they did in the past or create those opportunities. So our woodwork shop, for example, which used to have 8 trainees every day upstairs, are working in batches of 4. So we only have 4 at one time. So you've immediately split your social impact by half in terms of those trainees and those individuals. And our catering, again, is trading at about 75% in terms of the covers, the seats that we put out for our customers. So you're losing 25% of your income, which means you're making people redundant. So the net effect on us has been considerable. We're very worried about our future. We're hoping that we can get through this pandemic as quickly as possible, that we can get, obviously, like everybody else, a cure or a way of opening up these restrictions as quickly as possible. So we've had to make people redundant, which has been very difficult, big impact on the staff. We've lost skilled staff that have been very loyal to us for a long period of time. We've also, of course, I mean, you know, that's the most important thing, is we've lost people, and their livelihoods have been affected. We've also had to dip into already dwindling reserves to pay out redundancy payments. Again, the financial support that was around and still is around doesn't necessarily provide you with that kind of safety net. On the positive side, and it's a mixed bag, because we're asking more of our staff, but on the positive side, you know, what has got us through so far is an incredibly flexible, adaptable staff team, a brilliant board, some fantastic partners. This flexibility that I mentioned in terms of our funders, that's been a godsend. So some of our key funders, such as Bank of Scotland, Robertson Trust, People's Postcode Lottery, have a bit of a backwards to say, right, whatever you had the money for before, use it for what you need to. That we are truly grateful to them for shifting the kind of outcomes into survival mode. And they're also in conversation with us about how we can emerge. I've done my best to remain extremely positive. I've needed to for the team, but like Sophy said earlier on, it's really hard when everyone looks to you for answers, or looks for you to give some sort of guidance as to how much longer is this going to go on, when you haven't got a clue, when you're just getting the same advice and information that they're getting in the media or from, you know, directly from the Scottish government. It's really hard to say to them that we're going to be okay when even you're starting to have your doubts. I do still think we're going to be okay because of those things I mentioned: committed staff team and some incredible partners, and a very supportive public. We did a crowdfunder right in the very beginning, for example, and generated a bit of money straight away. And we were overwhelmed by the number of people that dipped into their pockets because they want the Grassmarket Community Project to survive. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen. One other positive is these social enterprises we deliver on construction sites, those contractors have been extended. So that's a little silver lining for the staff team in there and for that as a business. But we're very reliant on those ones that are open now to support the ones that aren't, and to contribute as much as possible to the other areas of the business. So yeah, that's the main challenges that we face. Yeah.
Thanks very much for sharing that, Jonny. I hope we'll get some time for questions from people who might want to ask you about your experiences. And thank you for stepping in until Sophy could come back. Sophy, we have just under 15 minutes. If you would like to go ahead, and hopefully we'll get some time in for some questions.
Well, yes, and I've switched to my iPad from my laptop, so hopefully that's going to work, and also hooked into a different system. So anyway, and my apologies to everybody for that happening twice. And I sort of lost track, but as I said, I was, as Chris Rafferty pointed out, I did finish on the word pub, but that's nothing connected to that. We were just in the pub with our friends. And that was, I say, was the first time I sort of got a hint that things were going to change. We've always had a staff meeting on Tuesday morning, an all staff meeting. So we carried on with that on the 17th of March, and we spoke about what the potential likelihood was for us as an organisation. And then, of course, on the 23rd of March, we had to take the decision to close all of our social enterprises. And I think, like an awful lot of people who work in the social enterprise world, We have been persuaded over the years that to become income generating was the best way forward. So we have, as I say, the social enterprise that I described earlier, and we had 4 shops. So the loss of that income was pretty severe, to be honest. And I imagine that's what Jonny was saying as well in terms of what's happened to them. So that was a bit of a challenge for us. But we have been feeding people for 35 years, and we had taken the decision that we would keep our food bank open because of the demand from our own clients. And we very quickly became part of the Feed the City campaign and have seen a wider client base in terms of people coming to us for food support, which has been quite interesting for us. People we haven't seen for a significant period of time, their income had been adversely affected. We've had a number of international students come to us that we hadn't seen previously, whose local jobs had been cut back, their embassy has been closed, so they couldn't get any financial support. They had little, if any, social interaction with people because most of the UK students had gone home, so they were sort of left in the back of that. To give you a bit of an indication in terms of numbers, I think that'd probably be quite useful for you. To the 25th of August, we'd given out 5,618 food parcels. In the whole of 2019, we gave out 5,277. So it gives you an idea of how many we did. We've seen 1,044 new clients, 550 in 2019. We've actually physically delivered 1,194 food parcels, and I've seen a total of 1,959 clients. And we had 1,440 in the whole of 2019. So it gives you an idea of the increase in demand. Like I imagine most people, we furloughed staff. So I have a staff team of 19. 12 of them were furloughed, and the rest of us, there were 7 left. So 3 people physically running the food bank, 2 out in the vans, and myself working from home, my accounts person working from home. The challenges for me were, again, going back to that thing about how you manage leadership, how you manage decision making. I think Jonny has mentioned that as well, the thing about what you do in terms of just listening to the daily broadcasts, trying to keep everybody up to speed with what's going on. Again, the other challenges we faced throughout was keeping up enough food, because whilst we are part of Fair Share, we went through the food really quickly. So we had to rely on the support of the general public, which was fantastic. The churches, who have always been great supporters of ours. We had a number of cafes, restaurants, office canteens that closed down. We got all of their food supply at the beginning. So we did very well to begin with. Throughout the time, it's been a challenge and remains that. We have had the use of, initially for free, a chiller, which was out in our yard. So we had that in the yard, managing to store some fresh fruit and vegetables, which was great for people to come into. The other challenge we've had in a big way around about the food bank is the people coming to us, who our client group do not pay attention to what's happening across news. They are not up to speed have not been up to speed with COVID, what the issues are facing them. So we've had to do a lot of education with people around about actually social distancing, wearing face masks, hand sanitisation, and that is an ongoing, consistent challenge for the team who are working with people all the time. They do not understand. There has been a lack of information from top down to the people on the actual ground level, what the impact of that is for them. So my team that are in the office have had to cope with an increased demand from people coming to them, increased demand over the phone, worried, concerned clients. My concern for my team has been keeping them safe, obviously. Having a small team there, we have to make sure that they remain safe, and that has been a big challenge. Trying not to cross-infect members of the team who are furloughed, desperate to get back, who want to help out. I can't have that, because we have, you keep talking about these bubbles everywhere, don't they? We have this bubble of people who are safe at work, and we want to try and keep them safe and keep going. So that has been a big challenge for us. The other challenges we faced through is on our shop front. We were not going to renew the lease in one of our shops that came up in August, but we were approached by the landlord 2 weeks before that. We had a rent of 15 grand a year in that shop, and they offered to let us get it for peppercorn going forward. So we've agreed to stay with that. We also were served notice in our Union Square shop to be out by the 23rd of June. Of course, that was in the middle of the pandemics and the lockdown, so we had to empty a shop whilst having virtually no staff. So we managed to do that. We are in the process of negotiating another at Union Square, and we've got the keys for that now, so that will be open again in October. So the challenge has been around about that. We also have a contract with a local authority, which involves
the collection, storage, redelivery and removals of goods for people who are evicted from their properties. That continued throughout the whole pandemic, and despite the reassurances that nobody was going to be evicted from their property, they were. So we have taken people's goods into storage during that time. In April alone, we undertook 29 removals for the local authority, on top of all the other work the team were trying to do. So it's been a challenge of trying to manage basically with a skeleton staff, and I think that's probably what everybody else is. I think that I asked my team what their challenges were on this, because I thought it would be interesting to hear for you guys to hear from the people who are directly on the ground, and not just me who's sitting at home writing funding applications and negotiating with lawyers, etc., in the background to keep things running. That they said most of their things was the increase in demand for food, which has been caused by fear, panic and uncertainty for people coming to them. As I said, the void of information, which is understandable and relatable, actually, that they could give to people. A lack of income from the shops, obviously that causes worry for everybody. And the furlough scheme, the pressure on them as a small team trying to keep them go. So whilst the furlough scheme has been a godsend, it also creates pressure for people who are actually working. The reopening has been a challenge for us. One of our shops is reopened. It's been hugely significant in terms of cost to get it reopened, and whilst there has been a little bit of funding available for that, which is great, we had to redesign the shops. We had to redesign the warehouse area where we store stuff, because obviously goods have to be quarantined now. Initially the quarantine was 72 hours, but that's dropped to 48. So if you imagine collecting furniture and having to have it somewhere for 72 hours without being touched, and also people want to give us all of their goods, their bric-a-brac, etc. So that has been a real challenge. The signage in the shops, getting them done, the hand sanitization units, the screens, that kind of stuff. Looking forwards, we don't see any diminishment in demand for food at all. We think that that's going to continue the current level, and people, it's interesting for us, people who have been furloughed, the 80% payment for if a couple wasn't enough to cover all their costs, so they've struggled with that. People who are now being unfurloughed and immediately losing their job, we'd like to see more of them. Being at home more means people have been eating more, so their costs have been higher, and that hasn't changed for some of them. And I think there's been an exacerbation of the lack of ability of people who struggle to feed themselves during that process. I think that is something that's shopping on a tight budget has been really tough. Yes, there was an increase in universal credit by 20 quid, but people didn't understand that, didn't know how to budget. So that, whilst helpful, there was a lack of support for that. We want to continue to work collaboratively. That has been fantastic in terms of our organisation. Our biggest challenge actually going forward, and I'll just say this, is we run a giving tree appeal at Christmas time. Last year we gave out just over 10,000 gifts to kids from across the northeast. We have no idea how many we're going to get asked for this time round, and how that's going to work if we have to quarantine gifts, because we get the names and ages of the kids from across the northeast, from family centres, criminal justice teams, have to support them, have to get the gifts, which people buy. They take a gift tag off a Christmas tree across the city, buy a gift, give it back to us, we sort them and make sure they get out. We actually are really uncertain about how that's going to be. The last question I was asked, what support is still needed? And I think that's difficult to answer because we're not completely reopened yet. Obviously, access to funds to allow us to address issues as they arise is the answer for that. If it can extend the furlough scheme, that would be fantastic, because I think that's great. But I don't want to be gloomy in all of this, because it sounds a bit gloomy, but I'm a bit like Jonny. I want to publicly say how grateful I am to my team, who have been absolutely fantastic. I mean, beyond fantastic. They have kept going despite the pressures on them, and have supported all of these people and continue to do so with little complaint, if I'm entirely honest. So I have to say I'm very proud of the team I work with. So I just want to finish with that, and I'm sure I've missed stuff because my thread has been thrown off. But anyway, thank you for listening to everybody.
Thanks both, Sophie and Jonny. That was great coming back. I think you've given us so much there, Sophie. We have got about 4 minutes or so. Are there any questions that people would like to put forward to either Jonny or Sophie? And if you would like to do that, please request to share your audio and your video. Or even put it through the session chat if you'd like to do that. And I can pick them up from there. Alec.
Hi there.
Hi, hi there.
I'm one of Nina's colleagues. I'm Alec Rooney. I work for CEIS. I'm a business advisor. Apologies, Jonny, if if you covered this in your session. My internet went down for a wee bit, but I was interested in what you were saying about the funders lifting the restrictions on your funding and saying that you could use your funding for anything. Was that the same about reserves, or did you not have that conversation? Because when you mentioned that you had to make redundancy payments, it would help if there was a restriction lifted from your restricted reserves in order to make that happen as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose we're kind of talking about one and the same thing. We could have, yes, you're right. We could have gone to those funders and said, is it okay if we use it to pay some redundancy payments? And they probably would have said yes. So, but we took the decision to take it out of some unrestricted reserves,
Okay.
And that's what we've had to do. Like I'm sure, like lots of organisations, you've seen what you've got in the bank just shrink that little bit, and a pressure on that is when you are making people redundant. The human cost is massive. So, like if we have to shoulder the burden of paying out a decent package to let people go, and also going into an environment where there's very few jobs as well. So it's been a very, very, I'm sure you can imagine, difficult process for us all. But a necessary process. Is absolutely, it just aren't the jobs in the commercially provided, canteens and cafes. It just isn't the same level of employment, But that has been a godsend to us, as I said. That we were fortunate in the past to have quite a small percentage of our income from grants. But those grant funders have been incredible at just saying, what do you need and where do you need to put it? No questions asked. Is really helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonny.
Can I just say that one of the things for me actually, and that Instant Neighbour had no reserves, so we wouldn't have been in that situation, unfortunately, if we'd been. But I have to, the point about grant funders, we have just 2 grant funders at the moment, and they've been fantastic. I would agree with that. And I have to say that the funds that were made available almost immediately for us to apply to have been a godsend. I mean, really, genuinely, I mean that. They've been great. But I've been very lucky in that I had approached some private individuals just as the COVID started, and they've helped. So that has been fantastic as well. So we are okay going forward, probably for a few months, but who knows is the answer longer term.
Good.
I'm not yet. I keep being asked the question, am I facing redundancies? I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
I would like to thank Jonny and Sophie again because we are out of time, and thank you for such an interesting session and sharing your experiences with us. If people would still like to ask any questions, you can still post in the session box, and we'll see if we can do our best to help you answer those. And now there's going to be a break. It was great, Sophie, you've more than made up for it. There's now going to be a break, comfort break, exhibition and networking. And again, thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.